All right, so tonight is the Crown Chakra or Sahasrara, and it means the thousandfold or infinity, and you'll see why. So the Crown Chakra is represented by a thousandfold, a thousand-petaled lotus flower, and it's violet in color. And the distinction between this chakra and the other six that we already discussed previously is that those other six have specific aspects of life that they are assigned to, whereas the crown chakra is beyond all category, conceptualization, and description. So that's another reason why I wanted to give this its own class, because it is literally in a class of its own. The other six are located inside of the body, whereas this one is above the head. Actually, it's 12 finger lengths above the head. So if you stack your hands together and then add two more finger lengths, that's where the crown chakra is located, above the head. So it's literally outside the body and distinctly different from the previous six chakras. It cannot be described through words, images, or concepts. And from the level of the crown chakra, you learn to transcend all that you've known thus far, because this is literally the meeting point between the finite and the infinite. And just a little another message for you guys. Please pay close attention, because it will be easy to get lost with this information tonight. It's going to be heavily scientific, heavily metaphysical, and it'll definitely be easy to get lost. So please pay close attention. Take notes if you want to, or otherwise just be fully present. And if at any time any of the signal cuts out, or if anything gets choppy, please let me know ASAP, and I don't mind repeating or going back over anything.
Instructor Morphle, you said finite and definite or indefinite?
Infinite. So
Infinite.
the limited and the unlimited. Yep. The finite and the infinite. Yep.
Thank you.
So it's the meeting place between those two. So you saw how like the heart was the bridge between the lower three and the upper three chakras inside the body, where this is the bridge between what is finite, aka the body, and what is infinite, which is, the cosmos. So it's literally the meeting point between the two. Anybody else have any other questions or comments so far? All right. So next, I have a quote by Einstein, and basically what I'm going to do is bring together the Eastern way of thought, or the Eastern philosophy, as well as the Western philosophy or ideology. So this is what Einstein had to say. He said, a human being is a part of the whole called by us the universe, a part limited in time and space. He or she experiences him or her self, his or her thoughts and feelings, as something separated from the rest, a kind of optical delusion of his or her consciousness. This delusion is a kind of prison for us, restricting us to our personal desires and to affection for a few persons nearest to us. Our task must be to free ourselves from this prison by widening our circle of compassion to embrace all living creatures and the whole of nature in its beauty. And that was by Albert Einstein. So you'll see some threads of similarity between the East and the West that's all pointing to one solution. So that's what Einstein had to say. Next is just a exposition on a previous concept that we talked about called Maya, or aka illusion, right? So Maya is a Sanskrit word and is broken down into two Sanskrit words, which is Ma, M-A, and Ya, Y-A. And Ma means not, and Ya means this. So together, Maya is not this, or illusion. And it's a term denoting three interrelated concepts. So the first concept is the power which enables those in its possession to produce the physical world. The second is the reality produced by this process. And the third is the illusion of the phenomenal world of separate objects. So all of these three constitute what we call Maya, or illusion. Somebody had a question or a comment?
Yeah, bring them back on time, please.
I got you. So the three interrelated concepts of Maya, or illusion, are this. Number one, the power which enables those in its possession to produce the physical world. Two, the reality produced by the process. Three, the illusion of the phenomenal world of separate objects. So all of those three things constitute Maya, or what we call illusion in Sanskrit, or in Mahayana Buddhism. Each physical object. Oh, go ahead. Somebody has something.
I'm just going to ask, when you say, number one, you say those in its possession. Who are those in its possession?
Yeah, we're gonna get to it. Yeah, just walk with me. Yeah, no, you're all good.
Yes,
Yeah, it's coming. Yeah. So, each physical object, as well as independent ego consciousness, is deemed illusory when considered in the monistic, which is like monism or singularity, context of Brahman, or God. So we have the one on one side, and then on the other side we have everything else, right? Or those things that are created by the one, right? So we get to see a continuation of the quote by Einstein, right? So Einstein represents, the scientific Western mind, and then we have this concept in Mahayana Buddhism of Maya, which are, two fingers pointing to the same thing, one from the east and one from the west, but they point to the same thing. So the two important concepts that I want to draw out are what you said, is the number one, the ability to produce the physical world. And then the second one is the illusion of separation, or the illusion of separate objects in the physical world. So now we go to quantum physics, right? So quantum physics allows the calculation of probabilities for how physical systems behave. The current model of the atom shows that it is mostly empty space, or 99.169 empty space, or percent empty space. So it's like barely even enough to quantify it as being physical, right? It's like mostly empty space. And surrounding the nucleus is a cloud-like region of electrons moving too fast and too unpredictably for us to know their location. And in physics, that's called the Heisenberg uncertainty principle. And so you don't need to know that or anything, but basically what it states is that it's impossible to know the exact momentum and the exact position of an electron in the atom. So, I know we've all seen the old model of the atom where it shows a ball and then it shows the electrons going around it. So that's the old model or the old representation of an atom. The new representation of an atom is a nucleus surrounded by what's called an electron cloud. And that cloud is just all possibilities of where an electron can be, but not a specific location. Because remember, we just said, based on Heisenberg's uncertainty principle, it's impossible to know the exact location and momentum. So the more you know about the momentum, the less you know about its position or location. And the more you know about its location, the less you know about its momentum. And that's called the Heisenberg uncertainty principle. And so I know you are probably thinking, like most people, if the atom is mostly empty space, where does the idea or the impression or the illusion of solidity come from? So the best analogy that I can use is, if you look at, just say if you had, everybody has seen a fan before, like, a ceiling fan, or like, the fans that you put in the window. So, a fan normally only has probably like 4 or 5 blades, or even 3 blades. But when you turn the fan on, it spins at a speed such that it looks like one solid piece, right? So that is the same idea of why atoms look solid. Is because the electrons are going around the nucleus so fast that it looks like a solid piece, but it's really not. It's really just mostly empty space with a nucleus and electrons going around it so fast that it looks like one solid ball or mass, but it's really not. And so that movement of electrons is what gives the appearance of solidity to an atom. Everybody with me so far? Questions, comments, concerns, lost?
Peace, instructor. I did have a question. With the new model of the atom, how is it then that we are able to gather presumed data like atomic weight without knowing precisely where electrons may or may not be in the atomic cloud?
Yeah, so normally the weight is based on the nucleus and the proton. It's not based on the electrons. So the electrons, it just gives the amount of energy.
Gotcha.
You might have to put it on mute for 1 second. I was getting feedback. But yeah, that's what gives it its energy. And so like, some people might say like, well, if the atom is mostly empty space, like why can't we just pass our hands through a wall? Like why is that? Um, why is it that illusion of, solidness? And it's because of those electrons. So in order for it to move up in energy, it needs more energy each time that it moves up in the energy band. So when I get close to an object, my hand has electrons and atoms basically. So atoms are a conglomeration of a nucleus and electron clouds, and the object also has the same atoms, but in order, like when I get close to it or when I touch it, it takes more and more energy to make contact, right? Because my atoms are touching these atoms, and so now the energy is increased because the atoms now polarize, right? Because we know that opposites attract. I mean, opposites attract and like things repel. So the atom now orients itself such that the negative charged particles of my hand and the negatively charged particles of whatever I'm touching, they orient such that the opposites are facing one another, and so they repel. So, or the harder I touch it, the more they repel, which equals more energy. And in this particular closed system, the energy is finite. So it's going to take more and more and more and more energy for it to, touch.
It's it's a lot to take in. I'm trying to
Oh
understand
yeah.
it. It's like you're saying it is, but it isn't.
What
I
is,
don't.
but what isn't?
It's like the atom is there, but it's not. Or we known
Yep.
it to be there, but it isn't.
Yep. So it's there, but it's just mostly empty space. So it's
Okay.
99.169 empty space. So it's there, but barely there.
Mhm.
Yep. Yeah. Just walk with me. You don't need to know all the technicalities. I'm just getting to a point, and right now I'm just laying down my evidence to get to my point.
One
Peace
more
and love.
question before you
What's
move
in me,
on,
please?
instructor.
Yep.
Um, um, as far as you know, has the new model of the atom been taught in school?
Not that I know of. I know I always learned that old model of the electrons going around the nucleus as little, you know, it's a ball and then it's smaller balls going around, around the nucleus. But as it stands now, that is no longer uh true because the electrons only exist as probabilities. They don't exist in finite measurable locations. So no matter how precise the testing equipment is, and no matter how uh, exact the tests are set up, is no way to exactly measure the momentum and position of an electron going around the nucleus. So it only exists as probability. So it's just a cloud. But yeah, not that I know of.
Thank you, instructor.
Um, last that I was in school, I've seen the electron cloud in there. I've seen the former models and the, electron cloud model. but it was never explained that way. Like it's been explained like the electron appears as a cloud, but it was never explained that the electron is so undetectable. They use the concept of a cloud to show that it could be anywhere around the atom. So how Instructor Northleg is describing it is new to me, but they do have the cloud in school.
Okay. Yeah, I've been out of school for a couple years now, so I have never seen it.
Peace and love, instructor.
Peace.
Yes, sir. Just to give the idea or the illusion of atoms and solidity more perspective, I read somewhere that if we lost all the dead space inside of our atoms, we would each be able to fit inside of a particle of dust. And the entire human race would fit in the volume of a sugar cube.
Yeah, that's excellent.
So,
Excellent. Yeah.
yeah.
I
I
always
just
say
want,
that we'll fit on the tip of a pen, like a pen
You
head,
talk to bro.
like a needle. But
I thought I was
that's
taking the
what it
link
is.
for the call.
Yeah.
And they just off.
Yeah.
Okay.
Were you saying something, Theo?
Oh, shit. I'm so sorry. Y'all caught me doing some electrical work while I'm listening. So y'all accidentally got off mute. I'm just listening. I apologize.
No worries. Instructor Vine, you had something?
No, sir. I'm just continuing to listen.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but that's an excellent representation. And now I think I'll use that one because that's probably even more, you know, being able to visualize that being a speck of dust. Thank you for that.
yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you.
hmm Anybody else questions or comments? All right. So moving on, we still in quantum physics right now. So another consequence of the mathematical rules of quantum mechanics is the phenomenon of quantum interference, which is often illustrated by the double slit experiment. So I know most of you guys probably have seen or heard the double slit experiment, but for those who haven't, I'm going to go through it anyway. So in the double slit experiment, what they do is they fire electrons at a wall. So just imagine this. Imagine firing electrons at a wall with two slits in it. And you block off one of the slits. So you got one slit and then the other one is blocked, and then you're firing electrons through it. So you'll find that some of the electrons will pass through the open slit and strike the second wall, or the thing that's catching the electrons. And they'll strike the wall like a tennis ball would, because you firing individual particles through a slit. And then the spots are going to arrive in the same form of the strip, and roughly the same shape as the slit. So yeah. So we got two slits, right? We firing electrons through. So one of the slits is gone. We only got one. So if I'm firing electrons, whatever is catching it is going to be in the same shape of the slit that I'm firing the electrons through. All right, everybody with me so far?
Yes.
All right.
Yes, sir.
Sir.
Yep. I know you are, Paul. So now we have two slits. So we open the second one. And if we fire electrons through both slits, you would expect that the pattern on the back of the wall would be in the same shape of the two slits. But what we actually find is a lot different than what you would expect. So the spots where the electrons hit build up to replicate the interference pattern from a wave. So if you have those same two slits and you send, like, just say water waves through it, you'll have what's called an interference pattern. And that interference pattern is going to be such that when the peaks meet of the two slits, because you got waves going through, so the wave has a crest and a trough. So when the two crests meet, it'll be more intense when they hit the wall in the back. And when the peak and the trough meet, it'll cancel out. And then when the trough and the trough meet, it'll just be empty space. So basically it'll look like a wave pattern against the second wall if you send waves through it. But what we are saying in this particular experiment is that when they send individual electrons through those same slits, it still ended up as an interference pattern, just as if you had sent a wave through those two slits. So the interesting part, though, outside of it being that interference pattern of a wave when we send individual particles through, is that, when the scientists observed it, when they looked at it to say, all right, we got a wave pattern, so let's look at the experiment. Let's look at the individual particles going through and see how an interference pattern is created when we shoot particles through. And what happened when they looked at it? It was just two individual slits or two individual patterns that was found on the screen. So the experiment results were altered just by the scientists observing the experiment being done. So what is that saying to us? It's saying that the idea of a conscious observer can alter reality, or what we deem or think of as reality. So if that's the case, then what is actually real and what is actually illusion, right? Because if an experiment behaved differently, if I'm looking at it or not looking at it, what does that say about everything else that I observe, right? Because it's all made out of the same, atomic and subatomic particles. So literally, reality is altered if I'm looking at it or not looking at it. And the physical mechanism of how an observer changes the experiment is that the very act of observation causes a change or a shift in reality. And how is that? Because in order for you to observe something, light has to reflect off of that thing and be shown back to you, right? So in order for me to look at this pen, light has to interact with this pen, and then that reaction goes into my, visual cortex, and it's, flipped upside down in the brain, and all of the, the mechanisms that happen in order for me to observe this pen. So in essence, what causes me to view this thing is the interaction of photons, right? So the photons have to bounce off of this thing and then come into my eye, and that's how I can see light. So just me observing something causes the photons to solidify this thing in time and space for me to view it, right? If I'm not looking at it, then, theoretically no photons are interacting with this thing because it doesn't have to be shown to me, so I didn't solidify that thing in time and space for me to view it. Make sense?
Kind of
Everybody still with
makes
me?
me,
Anybody lost?
it kind of makes me think about when that saying, when a tree falls, if you're not there, if you're not around, does it make a sound?
What you like? But no, that's exactly right. So now with this new information, what's your answer to that question? If a tree falls in the forest and nobody is around to hear it, does it make a sound? What's your answer?
No. The answer is no,
Why
because
not?
you're not there. You're not there to, I guess, to put those protons out, connect those protons to make that sound wave
Exactly.
frequency.
That's a perfect. That's a perfect observation, and that's true because as we just stated before, with the electron cloud, no particles actually exist. And when I say exist, I mean no particle has momentum and position without the observer observing it. So if there is no ear to capture or no ear or no eye to capture the event, then in reality it doesn't exist. It's only a probability. So it both exists and doesn't exist at the same time until an observer solidifies it in reality to make it exist. Make sense? Everybody with me?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir. I have a question, instructor.
Yep.
Peace, peace. Um,
Peace.
is I'm dealing with this in terms of application, and when you talk about observation, almost like almost I don't want to say validating, but I guess that's what I'm getting at. Like observation validates, but at the same time it impacts what we think is real. Is this in any way just simply related to our perspective? So like our perspective can impact how we observe something or how we interpret something, and therefore we have an impact on what we what we validate as reality.
All day long. That's
Mm-hmm.
the whole world. As people say, perception is reality. That's true. And it's true from that person's perspective. So me and you could see the same event, but it lives in two different areas, in me and in you, right? So who's to say which one is real? Hence,
Indeed.
as
So
Paul said or Rafa said in the chat, Maya, illusion. Anybody else? Any questions, comments? Everybody with me? Anybody lost?
Um,
All right. So,
one
go ahead.
question. Could you elaborate a little bit on the slits? When you got into, as we observe things, it alters reality and, the light reflecting back to us. But when it came to like the waves moving through the slits, I was a little bit lost on that. How would you explain that to like a 5-year-old?
All right. so, so if you have one slit, right, and you put water waves through the one slit, the pattern that it'll make on the back sheet is it'll be very bright in the middle, and then it'll dissipate as it goes, to the sides, because all of the waves are just going through one slit. So it'll be, strong in the middle, and then it'll dissipate on either side. So when we have two slits and we put the waves through the two slits, it'll create what we call an interference pattern. And that means that one side of waves is going to interfere with the other side, right? Hence the word interference, because they interfere with each other. So when the peaks interfere with each other, they'll add together, and it'll make a stronger, impact on whatever the sheet or the collecting device is. When the peak and the trough meet from the two slits, they'll cancel each other out, so they'll have destructive interference. And when the two troughs meet, it'll just be, empty space. So what'll be created is what's called an interference pattern, because the two waves interfere. So basically what it'll look like is waves, right, on the back sheet, because the two waves are interfering with each other. And so I'm saying, if you have two slits and you shoot particles through, all you should expect to see is two slits of particles on the back. But what you see is an interference pattern, the same as you will see with waves. So how are the particles, the individual particles, interfering with one another if it's individual particles? And that's the conundrum of the double slit experiment, is that how do particles create an interference pattern? What are they interfering with? And the other conundrum is that when you observe it, it goes back to behaving like a particle. No interference pattern is created. And so the very act of observing it alters the results of the test. And what they did was they attempted to outsmart the experiment. So, they look at it and it creates, just two slits. So what they did was they delayed the observation. So they shot the particles through the slit, but they observed it once, after it was through the slit, but before it made contact with the plate. And it still behaved like a particle. So that begs the question that it shows the irrelevance of the arrow of time, right? Because if you were to look at that theoretically, the particles went back in time to behave like they normally would, right? So just the very act of observation collapses the wave function or the possibility into a single particle.
Okay, thank you, instructor. I appreciate it.
That makes sense?
Yes.
All right, I can send y'all a video too, so that's
Yeah.
That'd be
I
helpful as
send
well.
you the video. Yeah, it's better if you see it versus me doing my best to explain it.
Yeah, it sounds like a visual thing. I had to Google double slit experiment to take a look at it. I am kind
Yep,
of
yeah,
getting it.
it's
We
an
got
excellent
this.
video. It's an animated cartoon called Dr. Quantum, and he shows you, exactly the double slit experiment. It's perfect. I'll send it to you.
Yeah, time for
Anybody
another
else want
question.
to
Send it to
comment?
all of us, please.
Yeah, I got you. I'm gonna put it in the chat.
Yeah. Can you hear me, instructor?
Yep, go ahead.
All right. Peace and love, everybody. This is B. Anthony. I'm glad you said what you said about possibility, because I was going to ask you to kind of explode that a little bit, expand that. Because when I was watching that video, several years ago, maybe like eight or 9 years ago now. What I was left with was the term. The words are leaving me, but like waves of possibility, and how the stream of electrons, the electrons went through one slit, only the other slit, both slits and no slits at the same time. And I was seeking to recreate that, what the takeaway was, because there was specific language that was used about this being waves of possibility. And
yep, exactly. So it's the same as with the electron cloud. Like, it's only possibility. So it's possibility until it's observed. So in the quantum world, particles exist in what is called superposition. So superposition means that they can be everywhere, they can be nowhere, they can be over here, they can be over there, they can be anywhere. But what solidifies the actual position is observation. And so it's exactly what you said. It only exists as possibilities before it's measured or observed. And so that interference pattern shows in reality that those particles exist as waves of possibility and potential versus, an actual solid particle.
And is there an axiom or a thought that relates to, or that we can extrapolate from that, what you're just saying, as it relates to the potential, our potential, even living in this construct, this 3D construct? Is there a takeaway or a jewel that comes to mind for you?
I mean, so what this whole explanation was, these, two things, is that we have the power to produce the physical world. So everything exists as a possibility until there is an observer to solidify this reality. And so I'm saying that in you being an observer of time and space, you now create reality, literally, because without you, everything is just exists in superposition or a possibility. But until you, as the conscious observer, observe reality, you create it through observation. So that's basically the takeaway why I went through that explanation.
Thank you so much. I hope somebody.
Instructor Keith, if I may.
Yep, go ahead.
There's a mantra that's been going through my mind this whole time you've been having this discussion, and it goes, the moment is pregnant with all possibility.
Yep, that's the one I was looking for. I just didn't have it like right at the forefront of my mind, but that's it right there. I'm not sure if everybody got that axiom or that mantra, but the moment is pregnant with all possibilities, and that's exactly right.
Instructor, is it safe for us to say that because of the phenomena of the observer as it relates to quantum superposition, that the observer too is changed, that the reality or supposed reality is both influenced by the observer and influences the observer simultaneously?
Yeah, we can say that for now, but it's going to change in probably the next 10 minutes. But yeah, for now we'll say it.
Peace, brother. I got something for B. Anthony, this instructor Ghost. So
All right.
the existence of rainbows depends on the conical or conical, I don't know how you would pronounce that, photoreceptors in your eyes. So to animals who don't have those cones, the rainbow does not exist. So we don't just look at a rainbow, we create it.
Exactly right.
Oh, wait, can you run that back
Wait, somebody take a
one more
note.
time, Instructor Ghost?
It's being recorded, so.
Yeah, so the existence of rainbows depends on the conical photoreceptors inside of our eyes. But there are animals who do not have those same cones that we have. They're unable to see rainbows, so the rainbow does not exist. They can't see it. But because we have them, we don't just look at a rainbow, we create it in essence.
Exactly right.
So with that said, I know ducks and other birds have more developed eyes than we do, and they have a much more broad color spectrum, whereas we only have about like 7 or more colors that we can actually see. So those colors exist to us, but there's other colors that exist, but because we don't have the cones to perceive those colors, they don't exist to us. Or maybe it's just that they only exist because we're creating them with our eyes. Would it be both or one or the other? That they exist, but we can't see them even though they exist, or they don't exist because we're not creating them?
I got to answer it, but I'm not sure if the Instructor Ghost wanted to answer that.
Go ahead and drop it, brother.
So I'm going to say it's in superposition. It both exists and doesn't exist. And remember, we said that perception is reality, like literally. So if I can perceive it, then it exists to me in my perspective. But if I can't perceive it, then it don't exist. So I guess the underlying question is, what constitutes existence? Is existence only constituted in what you can see, hear, touch, taste, smell, or do things just exist outside of, what can be perceived? So, I guess we can kind of leave it there and answer that as we move forward. Somebody else
Yes,
has
sir.
something? Somebody else had some? Okay. So
Yes, thank you.
that was the. Oh yeah, no problem, no problem. That was the first concept, the ability to produce the physical world out of Maya. And the second piece that I want to explode out of Maya is the illusion of separation. So um, this came about actually because I was thinking, like, we all as human beings have umbilical cords. So literally at some point we were a part of our mothers, like not figuratively, not, metaphorically, not conceptually, but literally a part of our mothers until, we physically separated that umbilical cord. And that got me to thinking, like, let's go back and back and back and back. And I ended up at 13 to 15 billion years ago. All matter and energy in the known cosmos was crammed into a tiny compact point. in fact, matter and energy were the same thing. It was impossible to distinguish one from the other. And this small but incredibly dense point of primitive matter and energy exploded. And within a few seconds, the fireball ejected matter and energy at velocities approaching the speed of light. And at some time later, maybe seconds or maybe years, energy and matter began to split apart and become separate entities. All of the different elements in the universe today developed from what spewed out of that original explosion. And if you look at the human body, what are we but a collection of elements held together and operated through individual expressions of divine consciousness? The connection to the divine wisdom and intelligence is what gives consciousness to the unified individual pieces. And what do I mean by that? So, just say if you wanted to build a model of a human being, right? What would you do? You would take elements, right? We got iron, we got calcium, like all of those are elements that are found on the periodic table. And if you had all the pieces to the puzzle of what is called a human being, and you put all of those pieces together and made what resembled a direct copy of a human body, would that human body be able to move on its own? No, not at all, right? So I'm saying that that spark or that piece that animates that inanimate clay is the divine, right? Or, what we call consciousness.
Absolutely.
So everybody got me? So just the takeaway from that is that everything that is the universe, the cosmos, the stars, the galaxy, the planet, dogs, animals, bugs, dirt, it all came out of one conglomeration of energy matter that expanded out to what we call the Milky Way galaxy, what we call human being, what we call everything. But it all started as one collection, one small, solid, dense mass of energy, matter. And so this is another piece from Eastern philosophy. So in Mahayana Buddhism, the metaphor of Indra's net states that in the realm of the god Indra, there is a vast net that stretches infinitely in all directions. And each eye, and what they call eye is basically the crossings of the net, is a single, brilliant, perfect jewel. And each jewel also reflects every other jewel, infinite in number, and each of the reflected images of jewels bear the image of all the other jewels, infinity to infinity. So whatever affects one jewel affects them all. And the metaphor illustrates the interpenetration of all phenomena, that everything contains everything else. And that was between the years of 557 and 640 AD. So modern science is just now catching up to everything that the ancients already knew. But because of, the ego, they have to validate and verify everything. Anybody got any questions on that? Questions, comments so far? All right. So the ultimate goal of yoga is said to be union. We could also think of it as a reunion, as we are of and created from the divine essence that we seek. Neither of these is entirely correct, as there is nothing to unite that is not already united. We are never separate or distinct from the divine force. So in Sahasrara, or the Crown Chakra, also called Samadhi or Nirvana, one knows the truth that the experience, the experienced, and the experiencer are one and the same. And that was stated by Swami Satyananda Saraswati. So that's basically showing the Eastern view of what we just talked about as far as quantum physics is concerned, and what is loosely stated or called the Big Bang Theory. Like both sides are saying the same thing, and both have references and evidence of the same thing, but they state it in two different ways. So, how do we get here? So, only by practice can we reach Sahasrara. And by practice, I mean meditative practice. Sahasrara is already here. We do not need to search for it, and we cannot find it because it isn't lost. What we can do is rediscover our awareness of it so that we can realize the ultimate goal of yoga and consciousness itself is already here in every moment. So that goes right back to the axiom that the moment is pregnant with all possibilities. So I know that was a lot. So I'm going to just give you a couple of the attributes, and then we can talk about anything from there. So the color is violet, obviously, as we talked about earlier. The violet, Thousand-Petalled Lotus. And violet is the highest vibration color in the color spectrum. The element of the crown chakra is thought. The frequency is 963 hertz. And it really doesn't necessarily have a mantra, but the Bija mantra that is accepted, it can be Om, because of the inside of the thousand-petaled lotus is the Om symbol. And then the syllable is NG. So it's more of a sound versus, like the other one. It's NG. So that was all I had. I know it was a lot. I did my best to condense it, make it palatable for everybody. So yeah, questions, comments, the floor is open.
That was phenomenal, instructor.
Thank you.
Real dope instructor. Real dope.
Man. Thank you, North Leg instructor.
Thank you. I appreciate y'all.
I
And we barely went over the time limit.
I just wanted to say I'm loving how everything from the axioms to the teaching, the teaching on the floor in meditation, that holistic approach, the context you all give us is constantly reinforcing our God self, and there's no separation between us and the universe. It's just a constant reminder, especially when we encounter, not only challenges in terms of our practice on the floor, but challenges in life, and how if we just let go and be, we can be free and navigate how we're supposed to. And so beautifully explained, the scientific context and validation, cultural validation and perspectives. It's all great. Appreciate you, instructor.
I appreciate you. Thank you for being here.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Veggie on my brother Yada, like what I thought was dope was how you wrapped it up essentially with um, the the experience and the experiencer being, if I'm saying it correctly, being one and the same,
Mm-hmm.
and taking that into, I remember some months ago in a Saturday class, Instructor Ghost gave me a bar on how he views exchange or kumite, and um, how he's able to um, see through my eyes. For example, if I'm standing in front of him in an exchange or kumite, and therefore, he's able to know where he's open. It's a heightened level of awareness, and it just translating this lecture tonight onto the floor is gonna be something. Knowing that the kumite or the exchange is us, that clearly we've been working on our exchange partner being us, and that obviously we're us, but really there's no us because there's no the illusion is the might is the illusion. The separation is not real. It's just kind of a it's a concept that either makes your mind blow or it makes you laugh, because it's damn near comical how we get caught up in this separation. And so I'm just eager to tinker with this on the floor.
Check the chat. I just posed the question for you.
Instructor, I had a couple questions.
Yep, go ahead.
So, in the readings that we had to study for our test, one of the things that I got out of it was that there was no specific color. It was all colors because it was related to light and radiating. So I just wanted to be clear if that's the same thing, is because I know you gave us a color, and I was just wondering, is that the color only because that's the color of the image, or is that the actual color of the chakra as well? Is it like not all colors? And then
It's both. It's both. So acceptable. So it's three acceptable answers actually. It's black because everything comes from the blackness or the void. Void is what births everything. So without the void, nothing can exist. Meaning that without the background, you can't have the foreground. So it can be black, it can be white because white contains all of the frequencies in the color spectrum, or it can be violet, which is the highest frequency color in the color spectrum. So it can be all three.
okay, awesome. And the other question I had was about the element. Can you break down why the element is thought? Because what I found was the element was an egg. So, yeah, can you just break down why the element is sought for me?
Yep. So out of the divine mind, everything was thought into existence. So before anything can come into existence, it first has to exist as a thought. And that includes the universe and everything in it. So because thought predicates everything else, and this being the highest chakra, thought is the element. So, for example, if I need something to write with, I say, man, I need something to write with. So I think about it and I figure out the mechanics and I create a pen. So everything is predicated and based on thought.
Thank you, sir.
Yep, yeah, no problem. Oh, this is one other thing I wanted to add. I didn't get a chance to add it, but if you actually look at it, so you actually segue me right into it. But if everything is predicated on thought, then the chakras are actually in reverse, right? Because us as divine beings, we were a thought first, and then we go down through the chakras, and the last one is actually the physical, right? The physical manifestation of a thing. Oh, my bad. But yeah, the physical manifestation of a thing. So, that's kind of how I looked at it. Is we started from the root chakra, the lowest vibrational frequency, and we go up to the crown. But for creation's sake, the chakras are in reverse. We start as a thought, and then we come down to the three-dimensional or the physical. So actually, Muladhara is the last chakra, not the first.
That's interesting. That makes me think about last week toward the end of the class when you talked about babies vibrate automatically in alpha and how we vibrate on a regular in beta. So that's interesting to me, because it seems like, or it doesn't seem, their vibrations are higher, and that's because it's going from the top down. So the very end is us being rooted to the ground. And so them being babies, they're not actually rooted completely to the ground yet. They're developing, like same reason why they don't walk out of once they are born, they don't walk. They are actually, carry, they're breastfed, they're dependent on the parents to, get around, and then they get to the point where they're able to crawl, and then they're able to walk, which is the end, which is them being rooted to the ground. And after that, they don't go backwards unless, once they get to old age, they might be in a wheelchair or whatever. But the very end is them developing and being rooted and able to walk.
Yeah, that's a great analysis. Never thought about it that way. And I was going to say that the reason why it's not an egg, in my opinion, is that, that age-old question, what came first, the chicken or the egg? So if you have to question it, then it obviously can't be the crown chakra, because we already know that what is before everything is a thought. And in order for an egg to be in existence, something had to birth that egg. So something came before it. So that's just my perspective on why it's not an egg. But thank you. All right, we got less people on here, so we're gonna go through super quick. So Amina, did you have anything? All right, Amina said no. Theo, did you have anything?
No, sir.
All right, Emerson.
Peace. Yeah, I got some. It reminds. This is almost like part two to the right mindfulness talk we had. Talking about the photoreceptors in the eyes, and how last week we talked about the third eye, and how the third eye actually has the same photoreceptors except it's facing inward. So if our mind's eye development is based on those photoreceptors, and the development of the pineal gland is how we see ourselves, then the development of our eyes and our mind also develops the outside world as well. If they have the same photoreceptors and the same capability. So I thought that was interesting. And oh dang, I forgot. I was just thinking about how it's losing me right now. You might have to come back to me, but dang, I had some fire junk earlier, man. I forgot.
All right. Well, if you think about it, you can come back.
All right, for sure.
Teresa, you're on mute still.
This is a lot. Looking at things from a different perspective, and it kind of brings a few answers to some thoughts that I've had in my lifetime. I appreciate the way that you took the information and you brought it back to us. And the examples were good for better understanding. But I'm gonna think on this some more because it's fascinating. You know, it makes me think, or it lets me know that I have more control. So I gotta, tap into that.
Yep, excellent. Yep, you are God. We just proved it. Javion.
Hey, peace, family. A lot to chew on. I don't really have anything. I just appreciate the lessons. The last two have been profound, to say the least. But just want to say thank you for sharing your genius.
Thank you. I appreciate you being here as always. Salama.
Peace and love, family. That was a class that. Am I muted?
No, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. That class needs its own half day to process. It's a lot to process. I definitely have to go back over this recording for sure. Thank you so much for putting together all this information for us once again.
No problem. And now you see why I couldn't just tell it to you in class on Wednesday.
Yeah. Right. Wow. Yeah, no. For sure. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yep, no problem. I appreciate you. You are you back or are you still gone?
No, I'm back.
Okay. I'm glad you made it back.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you. Kim, did you have anything?
Definitely a powerful class. Thank you, instructor. Honestly, these classes make me beyond honored to be a part of, like, to share the same DNA with you. Like, this is beyond genius teachings. I couldn't imagine not having you a part of me. Like, you are just amazing. You blow my mind every day. So thank you for that. This class, first of all, let me apologize because I said I could teach this class and I totally lied. That was not a fact. I had nothing close to what we learned today. So this was just amazing. It kind of reminded me the day before the test, me and Ben, we were talking, and we were basically just talking about the different dimensions. And I was saying how in some dimensions time does not exist. But before humans made time a reality here, it was non-existent. And so that brought it back for me twofold, that we create everything that's here. Like, we made math, we made English, we made time. time because it was non-existent at some point. Even if I want to say we go back to the Bible days, like I don't feel like Adam and Eve woke up like, yes, 8 a.m, let's go to bed at 10 o'clock p.m. Like at some point someone created that and made it what it was and made that the reality for the rest of the world. And so how Vaughn always says time is instructive. Excuse me, how instructive Vaughn always says time is a construct, and that's what we're taught because we have the program. So if we choose to change our perception of that, time can be not for us to be in every life and can just live how we supposed to live. And it also brought me back to the video of how much time we waste when they use the Skittles and how they broke down like the amount of hours we go to work and the amount of time that we sleep. That is we're wasting. So we're wasting like 50 something years of our life on based on what time it is. So this definitely was deep for me. I was able to take notes because I just felt like I need to be connected. And so I'm gonna have to for sure run this back. Okay, thank you, Mr. This was an amazing class.
Thank you. Yeah, the end was kind of fast, and it wasn't your fault. It was, I guess, the signal or whatever. But I copy everything that you said, and definitely appreciate you and just playing my part. You know, we all got a role to play, and this is mine. So I appreciate the acknowledgement and appreciate you being my sister. Thank you. Rafa.
Don't got much. I don't know. You the GOAT. This is the beauty. I think the beauty of having these conversations is that is not much of this is like we've been exposed to some of this information, but the way that you add more substance to it is just amazing. Either I didn't pay attention to class enough, aka I was disconnected, or what. But now I'm just being reconnected to many concepts that I a little bit about, understood a lot less about, but now it's just making so much more sense. It's just a crime that we don't have these conversations in school, but we have our own class being here with all of us. So, and the most beautiful part, one second, the most beautiful part is that y'all are teaching us how to do this in the real world. Yeah, we have our floor practices and we're doing things in a martial arts setting, but it's bigger than that. We are being able to apply this to our real life, and it's making us better people. So I just really appreciate it. Y'all are the GOATs and stay there every week, but love y'all. Y'all the best. I really look up to y'all, and that y'all amazing. But this right here, this is just amazing. I look forward to these Tuesdays. So we gotta figure it out. We gotta figure it out, keep it going, because I don't know, this is crazy. I look forward to this every week.
Thank you, Lisa. Love you too. Appreciate you. Kenyatta.
Peace, instructor. I'm full, man. I'm just bathing in it, man. This is very congruent with the teachings that have been put in us, via you and Instructor Vaughn, Instructor Said, Instructor Ghost, Instructor Aku. And it's just awesome to continually walk in it because being it is a process. And we have to stay, on purpose, as Instructor Aku would say, because to illuminate or not is a choice, and really, if we want the best for ourselves, our families, our community, and the planet. Truly there is no choice, especially when you're in the knowledge of. And so I just appreciate you taking your time and energy, to make this available to us. And I just feel a conviction, like I have to. I just feel it on my spirit, on my heart, to be my best in becoming the way that, however it I manifest, if you would, And so give thanks, man. Beautiful class.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate you. Ray.
Peace, everybody. Hope y'all doing fantastic. This class was really insightful for me. It brought to mind, I get words that kept coming up to me in my mind were like fear, ignorance, those two mainly just because that whole piece around perception and how we perceive our own reality. Like, so if you see someone who doesn't know as much as you about a certain topic or isn't afraid of certain risks that you are afraid of, and when taking a step in a new opportunity, you might be like, oh, poor baby, they don't know about none of these potential risks or any of these potential risks. And it's like, that's your reality. And sometimes we take knowing stuff and we project it on other people to kind of make them have the same fears or not restrictions, but we want them to be hesitant in certain ways because they're like, oh, you don't know that this could happen or this could happen or this could happen to you. And we kind of project that versus if someone's in a state where they aren't afraid of a certain thing because they're not aware of it, we might think of them as being ignorant. And it's like, but that ignorance creates a perception or a reality for them that allows them to move differently, if that makes sense. I don't know. I'm still piecing this together. But it really made me think, and even that conversation, like how as parents you might fear for your child in a certain way because they're not aware of certain dangers that lurk in the world, but they move through the world entirely different without fear and are interested and intrigued, and everything that they do is an exploration until they learn to start considering fear or danger or everything. So that perception is like, it really changes once you are aware of this state. Thinking of an example of like connectedness. Once you know that there's this idea of being connected, then you're either, am I connected or am I disconnected? Are we one or am I a piece of this? Like you just start to be aware of like the other possibilities that I might not be connected versus someone who never had that conversation. They just exist in that space of connection. So it's like once we start to learn things, it changes our reality and colors the way that we move through the world. And I can see how that can be, how ignorance can be bliss, but it's not necessarily a bad thing for someone not to be aware of a fear because their perception, they just look entirely different. You can see in how they move, like, oh, they're not afraid of anything. Like, even thinking about how I watch Amir do backflips and run and jump off of everything throughout the dojo, I'm like, dang. And it would be like, you better be careful. You don't want to break your neck or break your toe. Like, I could say all of those things to him, but then why is that my role to want to like limit his movement or restrict what he sees his possibility is for himself and in this world? And I think that's what happens a lot in schools and just through the institutions that we have that educate people, is just to instill a fear versus to just allow them to exist into that state until they move into another one naturally. So I know that was a lot, but yeah.
No, that was excellent. Yeah, definitely appreciate and agree with that for sure. Society is limiting, by design though. If everybody was walking around with this information, how would they be able to control you? So that's the piece. It's all about control. And without the control, who would they have as people that work for them and make money for them and all of that? You'll be free and sovereign, or you'll be present to your freedom and sovereignty. Paul.
To be honest, can't even say nothing. I'm still digesting what was offered, what was shared, what was presented, what was gifted to us. And like I'm having a whole nerd moment tonight. This is my kind of talk. But again, I guess my takeaway is something Instructor Vaughn kind of exploded for us the last couple of classes, is making the Tuesday night calls real on the floor moving forward. And so as soon as I heard him come on the call, I'm like, man, he finna cook up something crazy for us. The instructors, all of them. I know instructor said wheels turning. I already know yours turning, Instructor North Leg. So I'm just looking forward to what this new knowledge will mean as it presents itself and challenges to mastery. As we tinker with it in the lab. That's really just kind of excited about what this is going to look like in a third dimensional, fourth dimensional space, because this is some supreme upper dimensional stuff here. And the fact that we can even pontificate, on it is proof of our multidimensionalness, for lack of a better word. The fact that we're multidimensional. Just right now, we're mingling in this fourth dimensional experience we call life, but we already upper dimensional. So accessing that and making it real now, it just reminds me of the maneuver, making time, ahead of, during, and after the blow. It's a lot, man. We'll be quiet. I'm gonna let this bubble inside, and just be open for whatever it is that y'all bring by way of this chakra for us to tinker with on the floor. So, no, never mind. That's something else. Belief and training is a different chakra. I got you.
Yeah, I definitely had you in mind while preparing this. I was just thinking, like, I know you would appreciate and be able to follow along. So, yeah.
Man, this conversation cured my headache. I came on the call with a whole headache, a barometric pressure headache. Man, I'm feeling good right now.
Excellent.
Bro,
Timmy.
headache construct. Paul, headache a construct, right?
Right. Said finna get me now.
Can you hear me? Can you shake your head?
Yep.
Yes.
Yep. Hear you.
Okay. So it was a lot. It was a lot I was taking from class today. I appreciated being able to, I guess, like a telephoto lens, or just see and appreciate the minute subtleties down to like a dust or a particle. I appreciated you making mention of the elements and just how we are, simply the elements. I appreciate what was said about, you said void bursts anything, and it kind of instantly like flashed this moment in my head where it was a dream, and in this dream, it was like dark outside, and it was like this big kind of void, black, like spacey field that I could just felt like dark matter, just energy like circulating, and like it felt like it was contained, and it was like I was floating in it. It seemed like I was floating in this in between, or just this dark voided space. And what came out of that was this is before I had the aura, and I guess I freed myself from that space where I went down to the grass and I saw a baby. I saw my baby. So I was even appreciating what was said about the impregnate. What was that? Yeah, the piece that we was talking about, is to be impregnated with something. I don't remember what it is, and I can't hear you when I'm talking. I gotta put my Bluetooth back on. But what also came to mind, I appreciated you speaking about thought into existence, and I start like seeing the different subtleties when you think about the idea of a magician. A magician being able to create whatever, sort of matter from, just space, just from nothingness, being able to pull stuff from water, being able to do so-called Jesus fets of, changing water to wine or just anything, I was really sitting in this space in it being, how you birth those unconceivable phenomenals. I appreciated what Sunray, what she said when she made mention of fear. It brought me back to, I guess, my present moment. I feel like yesterday, I started getting this feeling in my back, like along my spine. I was in class and I was doing a maneuver. No, I was synchronizing. I was noticing that when I was synchronizing that my I would feel it in my spine, and then and I felt that it was achy. I felt like maybe I needed to do it better or something, or just more full, maybe my strength in my muscle memory, and then I woke up today and I've never really felt this sort of tension before, because it seems like it's like layered into my spine. It's just like my back hurts. So I've been doing like a lot of different arm lifts or turning my neck, and it brought me to fear, because yesterday was the first day that the video I was telling y'all about was like, shown to the world. And I felt like I was in a lot of different emotions that I started correlating to like Leo energy, like how well I sit in that light, and for my back to be as achy, like right in the spine as it is, I start thinking about the fear and how when it happened and what I was dealing with, how I could have very well potentially created that thought into myself, into my existence of, clinging to fear of, how I think I'm feeling about a situation. And, I guess just in this call, it's been reining me back in to how to slow down and be quiet enough to witness the subtleties as you're forming them. When you're forming the imbalances with your mind, and how to like just stop there and reorganize the thought, revamp, or just get deeper into your imagination or your concentration or your meditation, like to sit in that void, to sit in those subtle particles of creation, and I guess produce what it is you need. So really, it was really driving home, and how this space is where magic is born. I think that was, yeah, that was about it all. And rediscover the awareness of it. You said that. I was appreciating, the fact that we are already united and whole, and you just have to, really sit quiet, sit still to reemerge into that awareness. So, I'm just grateful to be here. Thank you for how you laid it down today, and I'm gonna put the Bluetooth back on so I can hear you respond to me.
Thank you for that. Appreciate all the reflection. That's really what this is about. Is just being present to information that you may not have been previously aware of, and then reflect on it, and then use it, see how it fits, and if it don't fit, throw it out. That's all. That's what it's about. It's about utility. It's not about information for information's sake. It's about how do we use it, how do we apply it, and how do we use it to elevate ourselves from wherever we are to wherever we need to be. So, thank you, Chris.
Hello, peace, peace. Just to be sure, are we doing a recap of what we learned from class? I had to step out for a little bit.
Not a recap, just questions or comments.
Oh, no questions. No comments for real. I'll make sure I look back over the video. If I could think of anything. No, it was a good class overall. It's a lot for me to think about. I like the um theoretic theoretical philosophical ideologies of how the world's manifested from our consciousness and how our consciousness is manifested from the world. It's a nice paradoxical conundrum to not just think about but to meditate on. Don't really have much to say, but it was a lot for me to learn and take in today. Yeah, that's all I really got.
Excellent. Yeah, I appreciate you being here, especially after just birthing life into the world yesterday. So that
Oh, I
was
need to
big.
be here. I need to be here. Thank you guys for still doing this because it's like, all right, well, I need to get myself together. I know where to go. I know you guys are consistent, and I appreciate that. I might not be the most consistent person in the world, but you guys keeping up your consistency. It's so whenever I have the time and availability to, get to eat of your fruits, the fruits are there. I appreciate that.
Yep. And the good thing is that with this particular construct, it's now recorded, so you can go back, watch it,
Amen.
take notes, and whatever you need to do.
Thank you.
Instructor Nate.
Yeah, I got a few things. Let's see. One of them was something that you brought up before, the divine mind instructor key. And that divine mind is connected to the crown chakra, and it's where we get all that enlightenment from. And it's where any of us get like a good idea anytime we like think of something that was great or we have an aha moment. That actually comes from the divine mind. If you think about it, you cannot actually cut open the body or even the brain and find the mind. That's not something that exists physically. And you can actually move the mind to different points of your body even because it's part of your spiritual being. And any good idea you ever have comes from that divine mind, that connection to the divine will, if you will, the spirit realm that we can't even really bring into words, if you know what I mean, because it's beyond us. Anytime that you are on the floor and you feel like you're starting to go beyond anything you're starting to go up the rung and you're starting to tap into that realm. But let's see. And I also have the mineral here too, and it's amethyst. And amethyst has always been a rather fascinating mineral for me. In Greek mythology, there was a titan that gave the god of wine amethyst to help him from losing his mind, to help stabilize his sanity, if you will. And they say that amethyst can increase or enhance the immune system, improve the endocrine function, improve skin appearance, promotes digestive health, regulates or reduces headaches, and regulates hormones. So I don't know if any of you have been working with the crystals at all, but I have to admit I've always found them fascinating and kind of helpful to myself because they all resonate on a certain frequency. And one thing that I've always found fascinating is I was brought up as a Christian, like that was the faith that I was brought up in, if you will. And the descriptions of the kingdom of heaven have always fascinated me because if you read up on it, there's a lot of crystals and a lot of gemstones that actually make up the kingdom of heaven and the buildings in it themselves, the heaven of heavens as they refer to it as. And it also go so far as to claim that the streets are made out of gold that are so pure that you can actually see through them like glass. But yeah, that's about all I had.
Thank you for
On the floor with
that. Yeah, you know we will. Thank you. Instructor Aku?
Peace, family. Man, as usual, Instructor Northleg, thank you for bringing the fire, bro, as usual. So first thing on my short list is utility. You know, you just continue to teach us in a way that provides utility that we can bring into our life and bring into our action that transcends the floor and the virtual dojo. So that was, as always, a cornerstone of your educational style. The second piece is I wanted to say to the neophytes or the new students that are encountering this information for the first time, please do not allow yourself to be overwhelmed. Do not allow yourself to feel defeated. Do not let the science overwhelm you or frustrate you or make you want to shrink back from it. Continue to take and observe, go back to this and just listen to the information from a distance, so to speak. The word I'm looking for is missing me right this second, but don't let the science overwhelm you is the bottom line. Just glean the bottom line information that reality is largely more an illusion than what you think. So that's where I want to leave that. But the point is, do not be overwhelmed by it. It takes some time to wrap your mind around it, and that's just part of the journey. The third thing is, I want us to be careful, and I want us to move in harmony and not in arrogance. So the gesture, the HA gesture is oftentimes put out there, and that's human arrogance. So and I think it was Chris that made mention of the oxymoron or the conundrum or the opposites in the opposite statements, meaning, so one perspective, from one vantage point, as the observer, we lock in, the movement of the atoms to create a perception. On the other side of that coin, there are vastly the range of human perception is minuscule in comparison to what really exists in the universe and beyond. So at the moment you sink your teeth into you being God, and based upon your observation a thing is created, I want you to check yourself and check your ego and be very, very clear that all that exists, the vast majority of that which exists, is beyond your perception in this human incarnation. So I want to make sure that we be real present at being harmonious with the vastness of what the creators have crafted, a part of which you are indeed one of the most masterfully crafted creations. So just be mindful that, you can observe and you can influence certain aspects of reality, but don't get too high on your horse and think that which you don't perceive does not exist. So just know that it's way bigger than our limited perception. And that's all I got on my notes. So another fantastic class. Thank you, brother. And you're a hard act to follow, brother. But I look forward to us continuing up this path as a collective.
For sure. Thank you for being here too. I know you're out of town, and got on the flight and probably worked today and all of that, and still made time for this. So I appreciate
Got
that.
to.
And all right, yeah, just to veggie back on your statement, we can only see one thousandth of a percent of the visual light spectrum. So that tells you how little of reality we actually perceive. So we see a very small amount of the visual light spectrum. Instructor Ghost.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So this is like sitting in a cipher, but on a timer. But I appreciate it, man. Really do. Bringing it full circle. You brought it full circle. Although, we only scratched the surface of where we could potentially go with the crown chakra. So perhaps we'll have a sequel or something like that at some point. So that's really all I have, man. I have too much. I give thanks. So that's really all I have. I really give thanks. Thank you so much.
Oh yeah, thank you. Yeah, we can actually do a whole, round 2 series for real on all of these, because it's so much, and just to condense it. Hold on one second. Sorry about that. Quick issue. Instructor said.
Family, I don't have anything. The whole presentation was a mic drop, so I can't follow that. That's good stuff. I'm gonna just take a page out of Kimmy's book and say, I'm glad I shared the DNA with all y'all.
Yes, sir.
Peace. I shade.
Yeah, definitely appreciate that. Instructor Vine.
Hey, brother, man. So, as with your last presentation, brother, it challenged me to create a kinesthetic practice to take students through, so that they will not only hear it and digest it from this perspective, but they can also feel it. Now, to Paul's point, there's already a practice. There is already a practice that brings this to light. But y'all not ready for it yet. It's some other stuff that's got to come before you will actually be able to participate in this particular particle practice. But there's already a practice. So to help you really appreciate what the instructor is bringing to the table. Again, Keith, man, it's a mic drop. You have definitely carved a niche to push us all to the next level. And issuing those, continuously raising that level so that we can have a distinctive discipline. That's what makes the generous discipline so generous, is that it has a distinction, because we can take these philosophical constructs, for lack of better terms, and actually put them into a practice. We can actually put it to a practice where you can actually feel it on the floor, and not only feel it on the floor, but carry it out in other practices in your life. I think that's our distinction. But man, I have to applaud you. Very well done. And you're right. There very well could be a part 2 of this, because just in listening to it, and I asked the question, is this taught in school? I asked that question for a reason, because it's not. They don't teach this in school, and they don't teach it in school for a reason. As you have said earlier, Keith, if they did teach it in school, they would be teaching themselves out of power. Because you can't exercise power over people who are powerful. So again, man, I just applaud you on just bringing into fruition what Elijah Muhammad has stated before. He said, in order to actually realize freedom, you're not going to get it just within the limited construct of education, but you have to be taught something outside of the curriculum to actually give fuel to freedom. And this is one of those rockets that will actually take you outside of the construct of what education is actually designed for. You have PhDs, EDDs, ABCDEFGs that can't find their way out of a damn box. and that's why. Because they've been so inundated by the educational construct that they can't go outside of it. And these kinds of lessons and these kinds of philosophical discussions actually gives you fuel to go outside of what you've been taught and question it. That's where you get the most growth. When you start questioning what you've been taught and putting it to task. And that's why it's in the Bible, study to show yourself approved unto God, a workman that needed not to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. The word of truth has to be divided from falsehood because it's mixed to further confuse you, tell you part of the truth, and then follow it up with a lie. And then they'll call it an alternative fact. You know, it's that kind of shit. It's that kind of shit that actually, got people storming the Capitol. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I can go on and on with this, but I'm not. But great job, man. And appreciate just being a part of such a phenomenal instructional team. You have also proven that this is not just about punching and kicking. It's so much more than that. And we just can apply it to a Marshall application and have you apply it anywhere. You can apply this anywhere on the planet. and be able to go anywhere you want. So great job, man. I appreciate you. Appreciate you all, family. I'm glad to have just a little piece of that DNA. Just a little piece of it. Hey, that's just my little piece of it. And I'm just so appreciative of all of you. Thanks, man.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And it's funny that you said that because somebody had asked me earlier what was I doing, and I said I'm studying, for class tonight. And they was like, "Oh, what do you teach besides karate?" And I was like, that was just such a funny question to me, and it definitely, took further elaboration. But yeah,
Right.
it was just funny. So yeah, anybody else got anything else? If not, we can
Yeah, actually, there's a mantra I'd like to leave you all with before we sign off. Mastering others requires force. Mastering self requires enlightenment.
Yep. Yes, sir.
I remember what I was going to say earlier about I was reading a book and it
My
has
bad.
yeah, you good. But it was saying how thoughts literally create everything in this existence, but the one thing the mass majority don't have control over is their thoughts. So imagine how much BS and just wasted stuff is created here, not even meant of true intentions. And I was thinking how everything is really based off your memory. So really the only reason I'm not tripping and going crazy, the fact that I'm in this room, is because I remember that's a room in my house and I live in here. So like how much of my memory is causing a dissonance or a separation of from what's actually there. Because the only reason we perceive things and take into account of things is because of our memory. So how much of our memory is affecting what we perceive. So it's interesting.
Yeah, excellent. Another reason why all roads lead to meditation is it allows you to control your thoughts, and it's on the second piece that you said. It's actually a theory, and if you want, you can look it up. But it's called the theory of last Tuesday, and basically it's just stating that how can you prove the universe wasn't created last Tuesday? Because again, like you said, reality is just a construct of your memory. So, exactly what you said.
Yep, sweet.
Yeah, thank you. Anybody else? Questions? Comments?
The
Concerns?
cartoon. Did anybody drop that cartoon in the chat?
Yep, they dropped it in there. So it's only 5 minutes, so it's there. All right. If nobody else has anything, we can call it a night. Get some rest. Appreciate you all. Love you all.
Love you too, brother.
Peace.
Peace
Yep.
and love.
Peace.
Peace.
Peace and love.
Love y'all.
Peace, everybody. Love y'all. Peace.